we want to work really upstream. So how do we start to change the behavior of boys and men and give them their social scaffolding for life? Because it's okay not to be okay, and that's a big thing for people to understand and get out there. It's absolutely okay to say that out loud and check in with your mates. And what's going to give you a longer, healthier, happier life is social connection and hanging out with your friends and reconnecting in. It's not wealth, it's not success, it's none of those things. And
JC, how are we?
good, mate. How are you?
I'm well. This has been a long time coming. It's been the first time, I think, ever that we've probably sat down and had a conversation like this, but I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a first one-on-one. It's usually events and there's 1,000 people trying to get near either one of us. So yeah, it's great to sit and just have a one-on-one.
Correct. And this is a busy time of year for you, understandably. What's the real focus of the past couple of weeks been for you?
Not a lot, to be honest, because I have such in a privileged position that we're surrounded by incredible humans who just have got this. And being our 19th year rolling in, it's just stick to the plan. The plan's always good, and for me, it's like Christmas. So I get to unwrap all the presents that is the campaign, and the incredible impact, the amazing stories, the lives that will get changed, and just seeing amazing humans like yourself do amazing things is the joy I get to experience these days, which is brilliant. Being 19 years in, because the first 12 were definitely 15, 7-hour days. People working out of my house and out of Adam's house, and in Australia with Travel Luck, and just trying to get stuff done and tick all the boxes. So we have the privilege of smarter people than us. I always say, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm probably in the wrong room.
Correct. That's universally applicable, I think. And you say privilege, but I think 19 years of graft to get here is there's an element of luck, there's an element of privilege, but a lot of it is just hard work and passion. And that sort of takes me back to the golden question, which is the Movember story. I mean, I know where it came from. I know the sort of simplicity of it and how it's grown into what it has. But would you mind just sharing the conversations that ultimately started what is now the world's biggest men's health charity?
Yeah, incredible, right? When you say that out loud. To be in, we were in 171 countries in 26 different languages now, with certain products we do, like our bike ride, with some amazing partners around the world. And it's not about the 1.2 billion that we've raised. It's about the projects and the programs that are in live motion right now. We've got over 1,250, maybe 1,300 programs that are changing the world and having impact, which is incredible. But yeah, back to your question on the start, it was a bunch of stuff. It was good timing, surround yourself with great people, as we said before, and the four of us at that particular junction, at that particular time in life, connected well. A great idea and concept, which was born out of a couple of beers in a pub with Trav and Luck, and then brought it to us, and we just went, yeah, we're in. And then 30 gathered together, and we kind of did it on the fly. And for me personally, when I looked around, there was nothing for men really. There was like children's charities, women's charities. There was women's hospitals, and kids hospitals, but there wasn't really a man's hospital. It's like, what's going on with men, and why aren't they looking after themselves? And I'd done a lot in environmental impact stuff, and being a surfer growing up, and oceans was a big thing for me. So moving into that, we'd always leaned into breast cancer and things like that. And it's like, well, what's going on here for guys, and could we do something for guys? And the moustache is now iconic, and it went through the hipster movement with facial hair. But if you go back to 2003, when we were quite young, moustaches and any facial hair, in contracts, if you were working anything that you had to put a suit and tie on, was written into your contract, no facial hair. And what particular dress sense you had to have for a brand, and how that worked. And I grew up in media. So that was really, a big thing and a challenge. And the guys that rocked out a moustache in our worlds back then was usually in a 1970s photo of, your granddad and your dad having a cigarette and a whiskey while you're at a christening with some vinyl jacket on, all hanging out back in the day, what your dads would do. So it was just this catalyst of brilliance, of timing, of the right humans at the right time coming together, an incredible idea of the boys that we all just wrapped around. And I mean, having fun, doing good is kind of who we are. And for 30 guys to be in a pub rocking out, I never forget this, you know, shaving down and then starting to grow out a moustache was like, just let's do it. And I lived in Queensland at the time, and all the boys lived in Melbourne. So I'd flown down for that and back up to the Gold Coast. And rocking out a moustache in Queensland by myself was funny, because I go out surfing, or, you know, I'd go out just having coffee or drinks with people, and they'd be like, "What are you doing? What's that?" Like, "Oh, you look awful." And it was this conversation starter, and it was brilliant. So especially the first 5 days, as you know, Fergus, it's the tough, because it looks like you have missed a bit. So it actually starts this conversation, which I thought was fun and cool when we first started it, and would be funny to do. And we wanted to have a lot of fun doing it, because, you know, the topics we deal with aren't fun, and breaking down men having fun together for 30 days and that social connection piece, in hindsight, is incredible, life-changing. So for that fun bit, we just really wanted to throw an event, a party, and do it in a very different way to what charities were doing, raise the money and tip it over the fence. And then it just took off, because, again, it was the right timing, you know. Facebook had just started with Mark in 2003 and all the stuff they were doing, and we didn't by plan, we just, like, social media became from hanging out in a pub or going for a surf together to there's this platform you can actually call out and do. And a lot of people were visiting Australia at the time, and it just kind of just scaled and scaled and scaled. And then we were like hanging on to keep up with so many passionate crew out there around the world doing it. And, you know, it turned into a really fun idea, into a very serious thing pretty quick. And we all kind of stepped up and formed the foundation in, I think it was 2006. For a lot of reasons. One was tax, because we had a couple of $1 million sitting in one of the boys' bank accounts going, we gave all that away and had to convince the tax department that we did, and it was for a not-for-profit, and we weren't a not-for-profit. So we grew up pretty quick in setting up our own not-for-profit. I think that's why it worked. And, you know, we're entrepreneurs, we're surfers, we're skaters, you know, love music and lean into all those things in life, and they came with us with the foundation of who we wanted to be as a brand and who we are. And, you know, we just stuck to who we are as our roots, and here we are today. You know, what we say no to defines us all the time, and what we and stick to our brand and our values, and it sort of spiraled out to the amazing thing it is today, because of incredible humans like yourself, mate.
Well, it's fascinating that you mentioned that you lean into all the things that were integral to your personalities: the surfing, the skating, the music, and what's ultimately given Movember. I think I'm right in saying it's still the only charity in the world with cult status. Is that correct? That's still the case?
It is. Yeah. So, and the thing is, our reward, and this is going to sound a bit cheesy and corny, but our reward, we always said to the four of us, you know, we're not the rock stars. We don't want to be in front forward. We're the roadies. You know, we plug in and get everything set up, and let people like yourself be the rock stars and really own it and run with it and do it. And we're just here to turn it on and, you know, make sure we pack up the venue at the end of the month, and it's all cleaned and tidied and hand back. And for us, you know, it's been really integral to keep that and the essence of that in play. And absolutely for us, it's always been about, you know, like-minded people doing like-minded things. And Movember's not for everyone, and we say that all the time. It's like, and we don't want it to be for everyone. We want it to be for, you know, like-minded people who want to, you know, change the world with us and have incredible impact, but also, you know, have fun doing good is kind of one of our catalyst core pieces.
That's it, and I've had a lot of fun being a part of it. That's ultimately what drew me in the first place. Was, to be honest, it was part convenience, part familiarity, and part smokescreen to some degree, because for me, it was the only charity I'd ever really identified with other than for a box ticking point of view, because of the rugby element at the age I was at. It was also the only charity where I could hide behind the sort of coolness of it a little bit, rather than it being the front and centre. And then the moustache, as you said, is just it's a comedy gag that allows you to, again, hide behind the reality of what you're actually doing with this smokescreen. And for me, I chose that because I was still coming out of a period of being a man that was afraid of talking about these things. Yet the moustache, the cult status, gave me a few barriers to actually the reality of what I was doing, which was a campaign as an individual talking about my own experience with my own mental health. So I think the real beauty of it is it gives you, it allows you to join it reduces the entry point to a point where every man can find somewhere to fit in. whether that's just growing a moustache, whether that's donating some money to a friend that's doing it, or whether it's completely throwing the kitchen sink at it. I think that's the beauty of it. And because it's got the cult status, you can be involved by just buying a t-shirt or just wearing a cap. It doesn't really matter whether you're doing a charity event or any of these things. And I think that's what's given it a lot of its
and that's
success.
the pressure. We didn't want to put pressure on people as well to do stuff. And it's just like, come hang with us, come rock out a mo. It's easy to do. You're not running a marathon. You're not training for stuff. You're not really tying yourself in. And most importantly, make sure you do it with your mates. Go and hang out, reconnect with your mates, have, a shit ton of fun for the month together, and really make sure you're connecting and having, it's okay not to be okay, having those really good, honest conversations together. And as you say, it's this incredible barrier to be growing it, so not putting a pin on it or anything, but you're actually rocking out the thing you own, which is our ribbon, is our moustache, and it will always be there as our iconic piece. And it's just, the cult status stuff, and as you said before, it's like we never went in for any of these awards. We never asked for any of this stuff. It was like, just let's do what we do, get in, get out, and make sure we have impact and change the world piece. So yeah, it's amazingly humbling to be up against cult status as a not-for-profit. So we're literally cult status as a brand, and we're in essence a not-for-profit. So incredible honoured that we got put forward and we won it, which was great.
Where did the personal, other than filling that gap in, there's no men's hospitals, there's no men's charities, etc. Where did the personal side of things come for the founders? What was the real impetus to make you think we need to be the ones to take this on?
Well, we just thought we needed to unpack the problem, to be honest. And when we looked at, there was no rhyme or reason why we picked prostate cancer, other than when we did due diligence on what was killing men and what was the highest killer in men for health reasons. Prostate cancer was a clear winner, unfortunately, at the time. And then when we unpacked that, when we started to look at it, and when we started to really look at how we could solve it, it's like, if we actually got people to grow moustaches for 30 days and talk about their health, and we get them to get early detection, and that's the key to cancer. So if you can get in before, say, prostate cancer's metastasized and left the prostate, I can't say 100% because I'm not really allowed, but it is now. It's like, if you go in, you get checked. If it's aggressive and it's hereditary and your numbers are super high, then you get that out as radical surgery. If it's not, you live with and beyond it. And you do active surveillance and you go through that process. And no man should die of prostate cancer, same with testicular. So the cancer piece was really weird, because when you actually started to get involved in the charity space, a lot of people had started foundations because they'd lost someone to that particular cause. And none of us had been affected by cancer at that stage. Randomly, downstream 10 years, my father-in-law ended up getting prostate cancer. And I was like, that's the best thing you could get, being in the family of the wheelhouse of Movember, because we got this. Rather than radical surgery, he went on active surveillance, and he's through it all, and he doesn't have to look and erectile dysfunction or incontinence and all that sort of stuff that can be the after effect of that. So for me, it was that education piece in getting it in. So there wasn't anything that goes, let's go and lean in on prostate cancer, but definitely as it grew, and we grew really fast, like 57,000 was what we'd raised in our first official year in 2004 to actually lean in and raise some cash properly. And it was the single largest check prostate cancer had ever received. So we knew we could have an impact in funding by just doing that. And then the next year, I think we raised 1.1 or 1.2, and the government matched it for the first time. So then they're like, yeah, let's go. And then it got really quick and really sharp and really scaly. So we ended up with 30 million, 20 million really quick. So it was, for us, it was like, well, we need to divide and conquer with this, and not just throw money over a fence at foundations who are trying to catch up at pace, because we scaled them so fast with this money. It's like, well, what are you going to start doing with the money and impacts? Because we always look at any dollar that's come in or any donation, we rock at this as a business. So you're our shareholders, and what we didn't want to happen is a day where we'd raised $1 billion, which funny enough happened, but it was a conversation. If we raise $1 billion, let's make sure we've got impact with that, and we just didn't waste everybody's time. And I'm happy to say 19 years in, the impact is huge. So for us, coming into that cause piece, it wasn't until we split the cash and got into mental health and well-being that we'd all lost people. And we hadn't really had that conversation as a group, but we'd all lost people. I've lost a lot of people through suicide. Excuse me. So it was really important to me and really close to the cause, and the stigma of it was huge back then. You couldn't even talk about it. Sorry, mate. I'm just I swallowed the wrong way. I'll come back to you. It's not me getting choked up, but I do get choked up about this. I just swallowed the wrong way. But when we got to that bit, it was really important, and there's so much stigma in it, and especially in Australia, people were getting registered who had taken their own life as accidents because they'd run into a tree in a car, so it was a car accident, or it just didn't want to be heard. And Ireland still to this day, if you take your own life through suicide, you can't have a funeral in a church, you can't be buried in the church grounds, which is just phenomenally wrong. So how do we start to lens that stigma and get it going? And check down 19 years later, I'm so incredibly humbled and proud that first thing on agendas with lockdown at government level is mental health and well-being, and what they're starting to look at, and make sure it's on the agenda, and make sure how's that all starting to look. So and seeing the princes do the trust and get everyone else involved with that, and the real lens coming into the mental health and well-being space has changed dramatically since we started this conversation. And Movember's always tried to be this catalyst to start the conversation, get everyone talking about it, and then let all the incredible people in the ether and ecosystem start really taking it on, and taking it to the next level, the next level, the next level. And I can see that's super proud that that's happened over the last 19 years for that part of the journey.
Was it a difficult decision to add mental health and suicide prevention to the sort of arsenal of targets? Because I can imagine there was a bit of an internal discussion on, there's other charities doing this, we're doing this, we've raised X amount through doing these things, is it something we want to take on? And I know that logic is why you haven't taken on a helpline with the money, for example, because Calm and Samaritans already do that in the UK. So what was the decision-making process internally on, we're going to give this a go?
Yeah, it was interesting because it was like, if we do we lose our audience? Are we doing too much things? Are we deluding ourselves too much? Are we trying to save all things when we should be focused on saving one or two things? But, mental health, it definitely, there was conversation. And for me personally, it's like, this is a big risk because it's a topic no one likes to talk about. It's really hitting against the wall of what people don't want to be talking about. They want to brush it under the rug. And that gave us more the confidence to, why shouldn't we do this? Well, we're empowered enough to do this, and we should take that risk because a lot of people aren't taking that risk. And Movember is about, starting that awkward conversation and getting that going. And also, when you unpack it, anyone who's been through, family or friends, or the individual through a cancer journey, mental health's a big thing. So how does that balance out, and what's that start to look like? And you're absolutely right. We don't fund helplines because there's so many amazing, incredible people already doing that around the world, and we don't want to just tip into that. We want to work really upstream. So how do we start to change the behavior of boys and men and give them their social scaffolding for life? Because it's okay not to be okay, and that's a big thing for people to understand and get out there. It's absolutely okay to say that out loud and check in with your mates. And what's going to give you a longer, healthier, happier life is social connection and hanging out with your friends and reconnecting in. It's not wealth, it's not success, it's none of those things. And there's a really incredible study, longitudinal study, I think it was Harvard, that did over 70 years and a whole bunch of cohort of humans. And the answer to having a happy, long life, because there's no point in having a long life if you're not happy either. So how do you have this happy, long life? And it's social connection, it's friendships, and it's through building into that long stuff. So if we can teach people to hang more and chat, and Movember kind of does that, especially during the months, and everyone checking in and rallying around moustache and having some fun doing good, then start those conversations. And how do you get to do those, have the hard stuff, and what does that look like? And we've built some incredible tools like Mo Conversations around that, what to say, what not to say. Because I didn't know if I could say, if I thought a mate was thinking about end-of-life stuff and taking their own life, do I call that out, or does that make it worse? And you absolutely call it out. And that we were funding a lot until I got that, and it started to resonate. And I forget the meeting we were in. I'm like, so I'm allowed to say that? It's like, yeah, cool. So if we can give them the education to go through that, get people to social connect, that's exactly where we want to be, upstream, not at crisis moment, at critical point. We want to be the gateway for that. So if anyone is in our ecosystem around the world, there's four points of mental health. There's good, average, poor, and clinical. And we want to play in the average. So if we can get people into average mental health and stay there and not drop to poor or clinical, suicide ideation comes off the table altogether at that point. So if we can stop that, then hopefully we won't need helplines or as much scaling as helplines is kind of where we want to get to. So yeah, our work is really focused. There's a lot of work we do around 12 to 14-year-old kids with ahead of the game, which is, in rugby and sport and ice hockey and stuff, and teaching those kids at that age, you're going to have moments throughout your life. Here's your social scaffolding. These are the tools you need. Check in with us on your journey through life. But when you do have those moments, absolutely fundamentally, it's okay not to be okay. And most of your friends or family or someone you will know is going through the exact same moment, so you're not isolated, and never isolate yourself in that. So for me, it's more of an education piece upstream, and changing it before the wheels fall off into poor and clinical. And absolutely fundamentally, Mind, Calm, Samaritans are doing such an incredible job with that, and take my hats off to them every day of the week. And we'll have that segue on our website, but yeah, not where we think that's covered really well. So we will play up here to try and in the prevention piece.
It's an essence of a lot of the questions I get around fundraising is where does the money go, and it's a little bit harder to make it tangible for people, because obviously Calm, you've got the statistics of whatever it is, £10 funds one life-saving phone call, and that's just a good hook for people. We know how people operate with very, very short scrolling thumbs all the time. We want information immediately. But the reason that I'm so passionate about the brand, about the charity, and about the impact that it has is it goes back to everything that you've been mentioning throughout, which is the brand was founded, the charity rather, both was founded out of the need for social connection between blokes and the desire to galvanise that a bit more in society. And that is now where a lot of the funding for mental health goes, into the projects like in the UK, we've got the Changing Room, Pie Club for Men, all this sort of stuff that's just amazing to see firsthand. And ahead of the game, but proudly as well, a lot of the fundraising that I did in first year with the Harlequins Foundation was ring fence going into getting that off the ground. And I think 12 to 14 is such an important age, especially in the UK and in the Western world, to try and tackle this head on and help them understand, as you've said, that at some point we're probably more old than likely to go through this in some capacity. And the project, I think, is where the real value and the real sustainable value is. It's much more of a, as you said, an upstream solution rather than a crisis solution. And I think it's tackling it at the complete other end of the scale, which is the right way to do, so that all the charities internally within the UK are trying to cover all the touch points so that we can make the necessary steps to move forwards positively.
Yeah, and we should be absolutely in the business of putting ourselves out of business. I mean, that's one of our goals. It's like, if we can put ourselves out of business, oh my God, we just changed the world, right? So, I mean, that should be, and it's a weird business model, but that's the business model. And, I'm so proud of the work the programmatical team and everyone we've funded have done in cancers. And look, testicular cancer right now, and Dr. Claire Turnbull, who here worked, an incredible researcher, worked on that one piece of, if you get testicular cancer, you go through the chemo bit, you're good to go. But there's this one cohort of humans that don't react to the chemo. How do we save them? Because at the moment, it's just a death sentence. And she unlocked that. And now we know how to do and create that. So no man should die, or boy, because it's usually boys and young men, of testicular cancer. You catch it early, you go and do it. Same with prostate cancer. Before it metastasizes, as I said, go and do it. We've got some big bets with some amazing humans across the world around unlocking the genome of cancer, which wasn't done before. So if I raised money in one country, it had to stay here. So we went and set 7 foundations up around the world to go, we actually want to put our money with the best people in the sandpit. So who are the best researchers in the world to solve this problem? And some of the projects like the genome ones, like 15 countries, 150 researchers collaborating, that's when you get real change. And look, a lot of people don't know this, but we fund up to about 7 different cancers now, including breast, ovarian, a whole bunch of stuff with that one genome project. That for me is like, we will be part of this incredible cohort of humans who I think truly believe, hand on heart, will solve and unlock the cancer journey. and the cancer issue. So you'll never get a cure. It's like living with and beyond cancer and how do these things work. And then framing back to the other side of that fence with the mental health and well-being, absolutely we should be, as I just said, working upstream and seeing these programs. And some of the most amazing life-changing programs I've seen has been a part of the Social Innovation Challenge stuff. And, there's this incredible project in Canada with the Inuit Indians, and one of the highest populations of density of suicide was in this, these kids taking their life, and it was just crazy. And we back in the day we built things and then gave them to people, and that doesn't work because you can't tell people what to do. And with this project, I'm so proud of the teams. They sat there and they built it with the people for the people. And we do this land-based project with them where they're teaching them how to fish, how to hunt, talking, reconnecting with the elders. And since that program's been live, there's been no deaths through suicide, which is like incredible, right? So, and then we did this other one called K-Vibe, which I love to death. And it's I hate the word refugees. Displaced humans is who they are. So these little displaced humans in Hawaii, at the worst of worst, lower socioeconomic. We gave them, through K-Vibe, this clubhouse to go and make BMX bikes, something really simple. And to get them out of the worst places they are, they have ownership of this little bike they call their land canoes to get them out of trouble. And they all go and meet. And it changes their life, and it empowers them to do this different stuff. To, as you said before, ways of wellness. We do surfing with mental health and anxiety in Australia and get that going. So there's all these community-based projects we fund, I'm so proud of that we fund, from pie clubs to the whole lot to get men to open up. So be where men are and do it. And I think there's a lot more fun and a lot more change, which, we say, think global, act local. So at community levels, how you can actually make the changes at that community level. And that'll just spiral out like our brand did in our campaign. So to have that in play and all these little bets hedged everywhere is what's really going to change the world and have the biggest impact on men's health, rather than just going, because we always talked about this, it's like that, that, and not diminishing anything around other charities, but it's like for £10 we change this, or we buy a mosquito net for this, and they have all this really graphic, starving kids or something going on, which is fine, and I don't want to offend anyone on this call, but we're like, well, we want to change stuff really up here, so we actually need men to engage and change their behaviour here so they don't fall into that space for us to need to do it. And I think the things like, the Social Innovation Challenge we do out through a year, DGD, which is Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, so 171 countries, and 2 guys rode it in Afghanistan last year, which I thought was just brilliant, in suits, hanging out, socially connecting together. And Mark, the founder of that, is a very close friend of mine, and rolls out this incredible campaign where you just literally dress up in suits, act like gentlemen, and ride through on these beautiful motorbikes through capital cities. And in one day that clips an amazing, circa 8 million for us. But more importantly, it's 171 countries, right? All these people all gathering for the one thing on the one day to get together and have that social shoulder-to-shoulder conversation that men will have. And I know it's changed lives because, I talked to the guys up in Cambridge who didn't know each other, and now they all do a monthly ride together. So if you start this one catalyst of a campaign or a day, and then you hope by osmosis that rolls into everyone hanging out and connecting again. And, I've seen that in rugby. So I would not have been able to start Movember in the UK when I came over on a laptop in a hotel without my rugby family. And, they put us on the map, and that's, internationals and all the boys playing at Bedford who turned up to the first one, who all became internationals, to the Quins, as you just said, and Sean and the team, and all the boys who play down there. It just had this family environment, which really works with Movember and works really well. And, timing, you couldn't have had something better than Autumn Internationals and a whole bunch of rugby guys rocking out some really bad mows. So it was just, and that just breaks down that little barrier. Oh, they're doing it, and, we look up to them, and they're doing it as a team, and they're having so much fun, and then that just gets people back in to do it. So, yeah, just super proud of all of that, I guess.
It's an incredible thing, and I think for me personally, the age that I was at and the psychological conundrum I was in, having those big figureheads doing it was a huge part of what ultimately gave me the confidence to just stick my neck out that little bit further. And that's now sort of freed me up as an individual to be completely self-aware and to be completely open about these things, which from a personal level has been incredible. But I know sort of proudly that having been able to do that myself might help other people unlock their own journey in this space, and that's what's really, really incredible about the foundation is that wouldn't have happened without the impetus from you guys. And it's funny because I'll be one of millions that are in that position, and that's really what makes it so powerful. And as you've said, the global spread, but the rugby side of things and the fundraising side of things, I'm right in saying there was a bit of a dip in sort of the early 2000 and 2010, 14 range, something like that, wasn't there? And are there any? Was it a challenging period for the organisation? Was it a challenging period for yourself? Can you isolate what caused that dip? Because there was a big resurgence now, wasn't there? But the real growth almost halted periodically before it really started again.
Yeah, and like that's business. So a massive rise in every single foundation on the planet at any scale or any company has this spike and rise, and it has to fall off. And it's like, I remember having chats with Ads, one of the other founders, and we were heading up leadership. It's like, is this the year? Is this the year? Like, this has got to drop, and it just got so high. And I'm like, oh my God, is this going to stop? Like, it needs to stop and settle, because until it stops and settles, and you have that 2 or 3 years of settlement, then you start to then become, we always say we're very successful, but then how do we become significant? And how do we leave this legacy piece? And from successful to significance is super hard to do. And we had, again, a lot of smart people around that. But, I personally was ready for when it was going to happen. It shocked me it took that long to actually come down, which just shows the power of what the brand is. And when we say, I always find it comedy, especially internally. It's like, when we had the catastrophic couple of years, because we had this father-son relationship. So we built this trilogy, and Trav's so brilliant, he's creative, one of the other founders, and we built this trilogy of, gentlemen and people in gentlemen journey, and the catalyst was our father and son campaign. And then we had 4 generations of people growing moustaches together and bringing families together and getting that happening. And we were actually going for a brand of the old father and son brand of businesses. Didn't think it would have the effect it had until we'd played the creative, and some of our staff had lost their dads or come close to it and got really emotional. It's like, oh wow, this is like this. And it was funny because Movember takes itself on that campaign and what happens, and it's not us, it's we just set it up, and it's all the humans and how they take it on. So it was an incredible campaign. It was 2012, and then 2013 we went, let's just go back to our roots, and we did, I think it was Clearwater Revival was our song Overtake, and it was like Hell's Angels, and it was like in our clips, and it was like surfing, skating, and we did a really solid anti-establishment campaign, deliberately just to rough it up a bit. And Ireland just loved it, because every Irishman's like, anti-establishment. I think we had our best year ever in Ireland, because they're always trying to rock the boat. So anti-establishment everywhere was like, yeah, let's do this. I think it was the year we won cult status, because it was so brand-focused stuff. And it was like, it doesn't matter. Like, it should never be about the money, and we shouldn't chase this money. And the fall from grace that everyone says that I always laugh about, it was like we still made 80 million or something that year. It was like, that's an obscene amount of money for any charity to be making per annum. As our worst of our worst was 80 mil. I didn't even think it got that low. But yeah, definitely as that kicks in that next 3 years to really establish ourselves from successful to significant, which has taken a lot of time, because we have to rethink, because the first decade of Movember's family and friends. It was in my house with 15 staff, 17-hour days. I remember going to Adams in LA, and his bed turned into a desk in his kitchen, and all of our posters and everything, because the weather was so good in LA, was outside on Venice Beach, and we'd see all these homeless guys rocking out of t-shirts or our posters. It was amazing. I thought that was brilliant. And that's us growing, and that's how you grow and establish, at that startup phase. And I think, as crazy as it sounds, we were still in startup phase till 2012. And then when we had that scale down, it's like, okay, we need to now become significant, reframe this. You start to change the players that are in the room a bit on the business structure side, and just go, all right, what's our next decade look like? And, the team now, amazing and brilliant. And they've brought in this incredible strategy in leadership. And we've got this incredible CEO, Michelle Terry, who's come on board, who's brilliant. And it was time for the founders, I think, to get out of the way of the organization and start to see it mature and grow into this incredible, significant piece that it's become today. So yeah, there's always, you can't be shocked when that stuff happens. You need to be ready for it, not panic. Stick to the game plan, and we're still doing incredible things. And for me, it's not the money that we've raised; it's the lives you save, and it's the impact you have. And as I said at the start, it's like Christmas for me, like the campaign of Movember, because I get to unwrap all my presents of these stories, these unearthing, these amazing humans we don't even know yet, Fergus. But in the next 30 days, there's going to be people we've never connected with before, or seen, that are going to come out of the woodwork and do incredible things and have incredible storytelling pieces. So for me, it's the content, and it's that content generation and having that message of getting people to connect back in and make sure you're checking in with your mates, and that's really important. That's my important piece of it, and I think that's stayed strong and got stronger all the way through. It was just people tend to focus on income for all the right reasons, but yeah, it happens to everybody, I guess.
I was going to say it's funny because the main trackable metric for any business, for any organisation, is obviously the income. However, you work in human equity and impact equity as well, and that never dropped off. Whilst the income might have done, as you said, success is significant. All you were doing was establishing the business as usual from an organisational point of view, and what do we now do with this consistent income that we've got, which is now skyrocketing again, isn't it? Because 1.2 billion Aussie we're at now.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
Which is what's about 800 million US dollars, or
I don't know,
give or take.
It depends which government's making poor decisions. where the pound of the dollar
It's
goes.
a shitload of money, I think, to summarise. It's a wild amount of money that's had a huge amount of impact.
And it's so important for us to keep that in and going, because our plans for the next 10 years is, we're not going to ever raise enough money in the pot to change what we need to change, and what we need to change as humans around mental health and well-being or cancers. So that's why it's so important for us to collaborate with as many people as we can in that space, to pull it all together. And most importantly, for me, what are we spending it on? And Movember very proudly doesn't spend stuff on overheads. So we don't pay, if we're giving money over the fence to another not-for-profit, we shouldn't be paying for the CEOs, we shouldn't be paying for leadership or buildings or housing. We should be paying for the science and the change, and whoever needs to be in that project for that product, because we're very militant on making sure that we're squeezing the best out of every cent that's in there. And we've got this incredible programs team that do that for impact and measure. So we do population scale measure and change, and how can we be catalytic in the conversation of change is kind of our obsession at Movember, because it is a business as much as anyone likes it or not. And our strongest equity is we're dealing with saving lives. And it's so cool to wake up every day and know your business is saving lives. But we need to then make sure how we spend the amazing money that everyone goes out and raises for the foundation is spent absolutely. I mean, we're more obsessed with that, on spending it. For me, and I'll probably get shot for saying this at leadership and board level, but I think it's easy to raise the funds. I think the hardest thing is how to spend them. And it's so much harder to spend the funds in the right way, to hedge those right bets and get stuff going. And, the social innovation challenges for me is absolutely the right bet. And it's we're literally giving back to the community that raised money for us. We're saying, hey, come up with these really cool business cases that will have impact at a community-based level and really save lives. What are they? And we're going to put money back into funding you guys for funding us. And I just think that's brilliant on how we do that.
You're weaponizing the people that have already weaponized the organisation. As you've said, you're a catalyst for good people doing good things, and then you're repurposing those good things into better things, which is arguably the most sustainable charity model in existence in my mind. And that's why the social innovation stuff is so powerful and so impactful for me. I mean, I've been lucky enough to sit in on a few of them, and they're just incredible. But again, to the outside world, they're a little bit more intangible in terms of where is my money going. But that's more of a commentary on the modern age of rapid information.
Yeah, and look, I'm okay with that. So as I said before, Movember is one of our managers. It's not for everyone, and if someone needs to, and rightfully so, if they're of a mindset where they want to put X in for X change, but absolutely there's foundations out there that'll do it for you. We're here for the long term to make literally life-changing moments for a journey of what it is to be a man and how to stay mentally well, and that just takes longer and cannot be tangible in one thing for one thing, equals, 1 + 1 = 2. It doesn't. So if you're trying to change the world at the level we really truly want to do it, we need to be collaborating and making big stuff happen. And as that unpacks into things like social innovation challenges, not many people would risk doing that. And we loved and leaned into that, did all the right due diligence of it, and it's paid off tenfold for me because it saves lives, and that's what we want, and gets guys connected.
Exactly that. I can imagine there's been hundreds, if not thousands, but is there a real pinch me, holy shit, look what we've created moment that you can isolate as the moment you realise what you created, the legacy piece that was being born, and just a sense of pride, really, because I can imagine there's been so many.
Yeah, I mean, too many, mate. I mean, we just get to, I don't know, every event I'm at, talking to someone and the lives that have been saved or their personal journey. For me, it's all, the biggest, the happiest I'm ever at with the touch me moments is hearing people's journeys and it's just these incredible life-changing moments and setting people's new course up and doing that. It would probably be wrong of me to name one of them, because then I'll get a whole bunch of hate because I didn't mention somebody else. But there's just incredible stuff, like this incredible, just incredible humans, incredible stuff. This girl during lockdown lost her dad to suicide, and they were in lockdown, and he was a doctor, and they literally walked in and found him when they went for a walk and had no idea. And then she's turned that into, she's just walked the entire coastline of the UK for Movember, which has been incredible. I think she's 19 or 20, doing incredible things, and she's just, that's how she wants to give back and remember and honor her dad. Yeah, I'm going to get in so much trouble. It's slipped my mind, but I tell it. Yeah. I tell her story a lot. Check her out. She's doing incredible. And, at our launch a couple of weeks ago that was in London, one of the launches the team did, I went along to and Sarah hosted the panel, and there was this other girl that literally climbed up the tallest mountain or hill in the UK, or whatever that was, 100 times. I'm like, what? And just up and down, and started, some crazy stuff. Had guys run up in there, in Speedos, to rugby guys who were running up the hill doing signs and having a chat and talking, and just really changed, a whole bunch of stuff through osmosis of what she was doing and talking to people and bringing it in to, there's so many stories, like guys who will row across the Atlantic for us because that's what they do as a challenge. Your crazy work, you think it's every day of the stuff you do and your challenges that you're taking on in January. We just spoke about before we went live. It's just incredible. And this is just constant of people doing stuff. So for me, it's a culmination of all of those things. I've been in a lot of conversations at a lot of events. We kind of try and sometimes not say who we are at places, and sometimes we have a pseudo and pretend we're somebody else, because nine times out of 10, if you go out socially and people find out that you're one of the founders of Movember, then they end up cornering you and having an incredible conversation with you about life moments and stuff. So for me, the openness people are to you and going through it, but you're going to get stuck for 2 or 3 hours, which I'm quite happy to do, but I just get so much shit off everybody else I'm with. Oh, JC's off again. It's like, can you just spend a night with us? I'm like, all right, just calm down. This was really, it's always important, and they're not diminishing what it was, but it saves people's lives, and that's what we should all be here to do. Be good humans, and how can we do better? And I'm definitely not the perfect human, I can tell you that, but just ask my wife of 21 years. I'm sure she's got a list. But yeah, it's just, for me, it's all of that combined. It's just, it's us building this movement, as in building the foundations of a movement, but actually seeing people do it and connect. And the movement's not us. We just set up, the playing field and, gave you the stage to do it. And then everyone just coming out and doing it is just awesome. Everyone feels like they own Movember and they own a piece of it, and they should, because it's for all of us. It's not for us. It's for us to give. We just gave it to the world, and you guys make us all look good. So, I mean, that's pretty cool in itself. But yeah, it's a lot of things.
And the key detail there as well is that the first 2 people you isolated were female, and I think that's again often a barrier to entry for some, is that they think, oh, it's only 4 men, therefore only men can participate. But there's thousands, tens of thousands. I don't know an exact figure, but most sisters around the world as well, and it's not a barrier to entry. It's just a different way of doing things, isn't it?
Nowhere. We'd probably still be sitting in a pub if we didn't have the women around us who helped us push this through, and and they're in the offices leading the teams, promoting it, and just guys are nervous by nature, and rocking out a massage and then just giving the nod. We call it the Mo nod, and it's usually females that do it, and they're like in the pub, oh great Mo for Movember. So just that encouragement back in the day was awesome. But now you can move for Movember, which was funny because we had this moment where, I don't forget, Ads looked at it and he goes, JC, do you know the first 4 letters of Movember are move? And I'm like, are they? I was like, oh, because you'd never visually put them apart. And it's like, this is the whole thing. We could move. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right, we could. So we had this epiphany moment together. I probably should have said that live, but we were like, oh my God, you're right. And I just never saw it. And then we've got Move. So you can move for us, and you can move for us throughout the year and, host your own stuff. But during campaign, go and do something epically and move. And then, we've got a lot. We do a lot of stuff in gaming, and we've been at gaming at the pointy end when, we were there helping and going through the process, and we've been privileged enough to be the charity of choice for esports awards for the last 4 or 5 years, and our friends own and write games, and we've on Twitch and stuff, and all that crew massively into it. But a lot of them are kids, so they can't grow. So, but they host their events and host a whole bunch of stuff for us. So we host now, so you can host a party. There's nothing better than opening a nice bottle of wine or a couple of beers with a mate, and over some food, breaking some bread, and having a chat and having those proper conversations, or just hosting an event, whatever it is. Could be a sevens rugby game to which happens a lot, to whatever, whatever you're into, go and do it, and most importantly, check in with a whole group of other good humans to have fun, but have a good conversation.
That's it. There's plenty of ways in which people can get involved, and just finally, as succinctly as you can, why should?
Sorry, I haven't been succinct at all during this.
No. That's not a criticism. Not a criticism, but just for the just to appease the rapid information age. Why should people get involved in Movember in 2021?
Because we need to be good humans. And we need to make sure we're looking after everybody else around us. And, mental health and well-being is probably at its worst because of the isolation and the pandemic. And just, for me, just check in with your mates. Just check in and reconnect and have 1 or 2 amazing conversations during the month of Movember. If you raise some money for us, awesome. But more importantly, go out there and reconnect, because Movember's about reconnecting and having fun doing good. So go and do that for us, and I'll be happy.
Spot on. Couldn't have said it better myself. And in fact, it would have been wrong to do so, as I didn't found the organisation. So there we are. But no, JC, thank you very much. Really insightful. And I'm looking forward to another campaign and campaigns to come. And I'm looking forward to going against the grain in terms of timelining a little bit as well.
This is what you do best. This is what I love to see every year. It's like, Ozzy, what's Fergus up to this year? Because he's going to do something out of control. So we just want to make sure we grasp it. So, mate, you inspire and empower us, so just as much as we do for you. So I feed off your energy all the time to go, and what are amazing people like you doing for us, and I can't thank you enough for being a part of it, and really privileged to do this with you today, because it's we don't get to do this as much as I'd like to.
No, thank you, very kind as well. But again, for me, it's your organisation ultimately was the key that unlocked my self-awareness and my own peace with my own experience. So without you guys, that wouldn't have happened. So thank you from me to you.
Yeah, awesome, brother.
Thanks again, and we'll speak soon.